Hello and welcome to another episode of Excellent Sports Talk. I am your host, Mark Bradley, and as always, thank you for coming by for another week of the show. And of course, like each and every week, I just want to thank you for being here. And yeah, today we have a great show. We are going to continue on with our theme for this month with all things HBCU Black College sports, and we're going to move right along into our three points of the show today. So let's begin with our first topic, which we're going to speak on. But first, we had to do the intro. Hello, welcome to Excellent Sports Talk, Mark. And so our first topic is going to be our rivalry history. We did it last week with the State Fair Classic between Prairie View A&M University and Grambling State University. And today we're going to talk about the Magic City Classic, which is two schools, Alabama A&M University and Alabama State University. So we're going to go ahead and discuss a little bit on the history of that. And then we're going to continue on to our HBCU Great Spotlight, which is Jerry Rice, one of the best wide receivers to ever lace him up in football by far, coming from a black college. So we're going to go ahead and discuss that as well. And then we're also going to talk about the HBCU college basketball season, which is going on right now. It started a little bit rocky, but it's picking up just a little bit. I mean, it's not to the point where, they're playing full-fledged games like back to back to back. Due to the pandemic, it has been some cancellations in the basketball season. But, little by little, it's picking up and things are starting to make sense a little bit in those sports. So yeah, let's go ahead and just go into our first topic. But before we do that, if you guys have any questions or comments about anything that I am talking about, by all means, please ask. I love interacting with you guys. So if you have any questions or comments, by all means, please put them in the comment section below and we'll talk about it. So let's get into our first topic, and that is the Magic City Classic. So like I said in the beginning of the show, the Magic City Classic is between Alabama A&M University and Alabama State University. Now, just like the State Fair Classic, is very festive atmosphere there. Usually there's like parades. Usually there's like, parades, just a little, get together, gathering, tailgate, things of that nature. It's kind of a loving atmosphere. Everybody shows up to it. There's concerts. There's just a lot of fun, festive activities during the State Fair Classic week. And so basically the game, the Magic City Classic, their first meeting together was October 31st, 1924. And so that was the first game of this beautiful rivalry that everybody loves, everybody enjoys each and every year. So the first meeting, Alabama State won 30-0. And that that's tough for Alabama A&M. I mean, nobody wants to get blown out first time you meet together, but it happened. Alabama State won 30-0. And to be honest with you, the first eight games of the rivalry, Alabama State won up until 1942, where Alabama A&M was finally able to get their first win in the rivalry, 20-6. But for majority of this rivalry, Alabama State won early on, like handedly too. A lot of blowouts. Let's take a couple of things. So, like I said, the first year was 30-0. Then it was 7-0. Then it was 32-0. So I guess the first 3 years, Alabama A&M did not score a point. And then the fourth year was 46-6. Fifth year was 56-0. I think that is the largest margin of victory in this rivalry since it began up until this day. And then after the 56-0 blowout, 1932, it was 18-0. Then they didn't have the rivalry for about 8 years up until 1940. So in 1940, they brought back the rivalry. Alabama State won again. In 1940 and 1941, Alabama State won again. 1942, finally, Alabama A&M was able to win. So, and then so forth and so on as we continue on throughout the rivalry. Unfortunately, they did not have the game in 2020 because of the COVID issues that they have. Hopefully, they do have a game in 2021. That is the hope. But the last game in 2019 was a great game, guys. Was a great game. It was a 43-41 game, 3 overtimes won by Alabama A&M University. 43-41. That was an amazing game. I seen the replays of it here and there back when back in 2019. Usually they show the games on this game on ESPN because it's such a big game. And so I seen the highlights. It was a back and forth matchup. No defense was being played, but when it's a rivalry game, who cares about defense, right? We want to score points, right? So a 43-41 victory against Alabama A&M was able to win. Alabama A&M has won 2 games in a row. They won in 2018 and won in 2019. So Alabama A&M, they had a very slow start, but at kind of like in the mid 1960s, well, the 1960s until like mid 19. The start of 1960 to the mid 1960 is when Alabama A&M was able to finally, get everything together, and they put on a string of games where they won 6 years, 6 years of wins between 1960 and 1966, and again in 1972 to 1976, it was a big Alabama A&M shift. And, it seems like with this rivalry, it seems like it goes in shifts, okay? So between 1920s, it was like Alabama, like early going. Then in the 1960s, Alabama A&M. And then Alabama State won a lot of games in a row between 1990 and 1995. And then in 2005 to 2009, Alabama A&M was able to win these games, and now it seems like Alabama A&M is starting to continue on with the trend of what's going on in this rivalry, because now in 2018 and 2019, it seems like Alabama A&M is starting to take control of this series, and hopefully in the near future, when fall football starts for both the SWAC and the MEAC conference in fall, that this game will be going on, and that we can see if Alabama A&M can continue on with their trend of winning games. But for right now, Alabama A&M right now is currently leading the series with a 42-39 record, and 3 ties. It has been some ties in the series, but right now Alabama A&M is moving forward. Alabama currently has the lead. If Alabama State needs to, even the series, they have to go ahead and put in that work. So they have to string some years together of them winning. And so, not only, like I said, it's such a festive atmosphere and everything, the battle of the bands, like each and every year, just like a lot of these classics, you have to bring your A game, not only in football, but in the band, in halftime, during the game, while, they take break, in the middle of the breaks, the bands like to play songs. You have to bring everything up to the tables. All chips is in the middle of the table. You have to go big or go home. So 2 of these top bands in Alabama, it's a rivalry there too. The bands, they want to outplay each other. So, the Alabama A&M, their name of their band is Marching Maroon and White. and that's a very good band. And also the Alabama State band, the Marching Hornets. That's one of the top bands that everybody enjoys and look out for. These two, they bring their A game no matter what they do, right? They try to outshine each other at everything they do. And like I said, the HBCU culture, man, your band has to be good, because their people will let the fans will let you know if you played a bad set, and they do not mind at all telling you how it is. They will boo you. They will do whatever. They will let you know if you have a bad performance. So you definitely do not want to have a bad performance while you are at a classic game, especially because this is such a big rivalry, right? You want to bring your A game. Everybody expects to have a great halftime performance, and that's what they do. That's what they usually do. Both of these bands are well known. They're well renowned. They all have some weight coming from their name, and everybody knows them as two of the top bands. And Alabama is not a big state at all. So, with these two schools being very close to each other, they want to outperform each other. So this is a big deal for both of those teams to not only play well in football, but to play well in the bands. And so I failed to mention about this. Both teams do not play each other at their own school. They meet in Birmingham, Alabama. So they both play in this neutral site. So, once every year, everybody goes to Birmingham, has a big celebration, and everything is all good. It's all love over there. Everybody loves each other. Don't get me wrong. As big as a rivalry as these two schools are, the people love each other, right? Each and every year, people have friends that went to both of these schools. Maybe their children went to their schools, because the alumni really loves these type of classics. They come back each and every year just for these games. So it's very big for these two schools to meet. But even though it's a rivalry, like I said, they all love each other, and so it's a fun game to really come meet in the middle of Birmingham and just have a great weekend. Go to all the concerts, go to the Battle of the Bands, go to the game, and then whatever the after party is, you go to that. So yeah, it's a fun deal for these teams. So like I said, it started in 1924, still going on to this day. Alabama A&M and Alabama State, two great schools. But I did want to mention, before I move on to the next topic, that Black college football, unfortunately, the MEAC conference will not be having a spring season starting in maybe like 2 weeks. So they're not going to have a football season in the spring. They're going to have one in the fall. Everybody's going to participate in the fall. That's when it regularly starts. Everybody's going to be there. But as far as the fall, the MEAC conference is not having a season. Unfortunately, they do not have enough schools to play in the spring conference because of the opt-outs. So they're not going to have a season, unfortunately. But the good thing about it is, if you are a Black college football fan, the SWAC should be continuing on with their spring season. Not too many schools have opted out in the SWAC conference, so they should still be able to have some type of Black college sports happening in the spring. So we're going to have something, and I think everybody is excited to see what's going to happen in the SWAC conference, because just to keep it really real with you guys, I think people look forward more to SWAC than MEAC conference, unfortunately, because especially now that the conference has shifted because of Bethune-Cookman University going and Florida A&M college going to going to the SWAC conference, and that was a big deal. That was a big deal when it happened. But now a lot of more people are looking forward to the SWAC conference this year. So they're not going to disappoint. They're going to have a season SWAC, the SWAC conference. So, it's exciting. It's exciting to see what's going to happen in a couple of weeks. It's going to be here very soon. So if you guys, so that's the end of that topic. If you guys have any questions or comments, please by all means put them down in the comment section. And if you want more information about any other schools in the HBCU landscape, by all means put it in the chat, and we can definitely have an interactive moment. So let's continue on. Let's continue on to the next topic, and that is going to be the HBCU Great Spotlight. And so this week, I decided to go ahead and speak on one of the best wide receivers to ever lace them up in the NFL, and that is Jerry Rice. So let's get a little background on Jerry Rice. So Jerry Rice is from Starkville, Mississippi, another guy from Mississippi, just like Walter Payton. They're both from Mississippi. We're both very strong football state. That's a strong football state. So he went to a very strong football school. Oh my goodness. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So he went to a very strong football high school, and it was funny because he did not really start right away playing football because his mother didn't allow him to play football like his freshman year. But I guess his sophomore year, he was able to go ahead and start playing football. And he's also a strong basketball player as well. He was also a strong basketball player and a track and field guy. He was very well-rounded in his athletic abilities. So he was a very, very strong basketball player, very strong track guy, but we all know what he was really there for. It was football. So continuing on, in 1981, he committed to play for Mississippi Valley State University. And so Mississippi Valley State, everybody knows about how strong that school is. Mississippi Valley State and Alcorn, both college football schools out there in Mississippi. Very, very strong school. Oh, and Jackson. Excuse me, Jackson as well. There's a lot of HBCUs out there in Mississippi. So basically, he committed to Mississippi Valley State in 1981, where he redshirted. He redshirted his freshman year, so he did not play his freshman year. But then when he was able to play, I mean, look, Jerry Rice was strong. Jerry Rice was strong. I believe his sophomore year in 1982. No, he didn't play his first year. So his freshman year, he caught 66 passes for 1,113 yards. And look, for 66 passes to get 1,000 yards, that is strong. That is strong, okay? That is amazing. That's very hard to do. That's a lot of long touchdowns he caught in college. And so it was his sophomore year. I'm looking at the stats right now. So 66 passes, 1,113 yards, and 7 touchdowns his sophomore year. And it was him and another. It was a good duo. Let's go back. Yeah, it was a duo, a quarterback by the name of Willie Totten and Jerry Rice were both just in sync, like they was together. And so between them, both of those guys playing like together in 1983, Jerry Rice was able to up his stats in his junior year. 102 catches for 1,450 receiving yards, and he was named first team Division 1AA All-American. And he also set a single season record with 24 catches against Louisiana Southern University. Against Louisiana Southern University. And in 1984, he just upped his stats one more time as he had 112 catches for 1,845 yards his senior year. That is amazing. Jerry Rice was really, from year to year, was just upping his stats. And in his senior years, he had 27 touchdowns, which was in 1984 set the NCAA record for all divisions. So everybody, he was better than any receiver to ever put on a helmet in college football. In college football, period. Like, he's the best. Coming out of small school of Mississippi Valley State, which I'm pretty sure back in the 80s, it was hard for a lot of these black colleges to even get exposure into the limelight. It's a little bit better today, but in the 80s, nobody was really caring about nobody was really caring about black colleges like that. I mean, whatever. We care about these top schools, the Alabamas, the USCs, the schools we want to watch that we see every day on TV, the Florida Gators. Back in those days, back in the 80s, the Florida Gators was one of the best teams to ever join college football. That team was amazing. But look, there was some talent coming from the HBCU landscape. Look at Jerry Rice setting records, beating out every wide receiver to ever lace him up. So there was that. So for that, that caught a lot of eyes for Jerry Rice. And when it was time for Jerry Rice to go into the pros, he had a lot of scouts for him because of his running ability. Jerry Rice was a very fast guy. So anyway, Jerry Rice goes into the 1985 draft, drafted 17th to San Francisco, and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, 17th, that's pretty crazy to really think about Jerry Rice's stats. But of course, HBCU football, you know how it is. Nobody is really looking at these guys. But whoever was to scout during for the San Francisco 49ers did his job and convinced them more than enough to go into and get Jerry Rice with the 17th pick. Now, that's pretty crazy for Jerry Rice, right? So Jerry Rice, he just goes in and just becomes slowly but surely the best to ever play for the San Francisco 49ers. And him and the 49ers was just a match made in heaven. It was just so good to see Jerry Rice just play. And so let's look at his stats in 1985, his rookie year. He was able to play 16 games, 49 receptions, 927 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Really, he was a rookie, right? Didn't get too many playing time. It's all right. But slowly but surely, like I said, he became one of the best wide receivers to ever lace him up. 1986 stepped his game up, 86 receptions, 1,570 yards, and 15 touchdowns. And then in 1988, had one of a great year with 64 receptions, 1,306 yards, and 9 touchdowns. But 1987, I was really thinking about. He had 22 touchdowns in 1987, which is very good. And also, I think his best year receiving wise, 1995, where he had 122 catches, 1,848 yards, and 15 touchdowns. And that is hard to do. That is hard to do in professionals. But Jerry Rice basically could catch anything. Let's be real. Let's be real. He could catch anything. And so let me see. Give me 1 second. So and look, even going into his pro year, Jerry Rice was a winner. Let's be real. Jerry Rice was a winner. Okay. I believe he won 5 Super Bowls. I cannot remember. But look, Jerry Rice had such an amazing 1 second. Let me see how many I don't know why I'm catching a blank, but he had I think it was 5. I think it was 5 Super Bowls. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Please let me know. But I believe it was 5 Super Bowls. I want to say it was. I do not want to get this wrong, so let me look it up for you guys. I believe it was 5. But yeah, anyway, Jerry Rice, coming from a small school like Mississippi Valley State, you will be 100% surprised how many black college football players are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So, and it's no different. Jerry Rice, there's a laundry list of players coming out of HBCU schools that are in the that are in the Hall of Fame. Now, a lot of them didn't get a lot of media time like Jerry Rice and like Walter Payton, but there's a laundry list of players that are in the Hall of Fame from HBCUs. But Jerry Rice was one of those that came from a small school that worked his butt off in the NFL. He played for 20 years. After a while, he also played in Oakland, one of my favorite teams ever. And I remember those days, man, where Jerry Rice was playing, and oh my gosh. And it was in the back half of his career when he played for Oakland. He was able to go there in 2021. He was still putting up big time numbers. I mean, in 2001, first year with Oakland, he had 83 receptions with 1,139 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's still really good for him being in the back half of his career. And in 2002, he had even a better year with 92 catches, 1,211 yards. But, in 2003, it was about time, he was declining in age. He was getting up there in age, and, he was a little bit older, but, still at the end, he played his butt off throughout the rest of his career, had a Hall of Fame career. It was just amazing to see him play. I mean, he was just like, he could catch everything. He could catch everything, okay? And so Jerry Rice, him and Joe Montana and then Steve Young, was a great duo, And Jerry Rice will forever be one of those players that broke so many records, and it's going to be hard to catch up to Jerry Rice in a lot of these records. But one of the best players to come out of Mississippi Valley State, probably the best player to come out of that school. And when you have talent in those HBCUs, you really have to go ahead and take a chance on those guys. But that's the end of the HBCU great spotlight for this week. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, please, by all means, put them in the comment section, and we'll definitely get into that And so let's go ahead and move on to our last topic today, and that is the HBCU college basketball season. And so, like I said in the beginning of the show, it's been slowly but surely going on. The college basketball season has progressed a little bit. In the beginning, it was really rocky because it was a lot of COVID protocols. I know Alabama State didn't even play up until the league, their league conference started. So when the SWAC basketball season started, that's when Alabama State started playing their first couple of games. So it was really rocky at first, but now it's picking up a little bit since they're getting into conference play. So it's not a lot of travel. It's not a lot of more opportunities for these players to catch the virus. So it's moving along a little bit. So basically, we're going to go ahead and get into the conference in itself. So let's start off with the MEAC conference, guys. And so we're going to start off the MEAC conference in basketball. They have two conferences. In football, they usually don't have conferences, but in basketball, they do. So in basketball, the Northern Division, let's start there, okay? So in the Northern Division, Morgan State is the number one. Okay, Jerry Rice has 3 Super Bowls. That's what I thought. I'm tripping. I thought it was 5. I guess I was wrong. Okay, so Jerry Rice has 3 footballs. Thank you. Let's start off in the Northern Division. Morgan State out there in Baltimore is having a tremendous basketball season right now. They're 6-2 in the conference, in the MEAC conference. Overall, their record is 11-4, and they're on a 5-game winning streak, guys. They're on a 5-game winning streak, having a big season right now. They were able to beat a lot of good teams. They was able to beat a lot of good teams in the division right now. They played a lot against Coppin State. So they played like 4 games against Coppin State already. And they also beat Delaware State February 6th. Unfortunately, they have a couple of games canceled. Yo, what's going on, James? How you feeling, man? So unfortunately, they have a couple of games canceled up until right now against Howard. So they're not going to play Howard. And so their next slated game is tomorrow against Norfolk State at their own house. So tomorrow and the 14th they're playing. Oh man, I hope everything gets better, man, for sure. So yeah, so Coppin State is having a good season so far. They're able to win the games that they're playing. They're able to win the games that they're playing, and they have all the confidence in the world to win the Northern Division. So coming in number 2 is Coppin State. Like I said, they played each other a lot, Morgan State and Coppin State. So far they're 1-2 right now. Coppin State is 6-4 in the division, but their overall record is not good with a 7-12 record. But as long as you win your division, none of that really matters. So coming in next is Norfolk State. Norfolk State right now is 5-4 in the division, and 10-7 overall record. And so hopefully they can creep in. They can creep into that second spot if they beat Coppin State. So you got to look out for that. Then here's where the tricky part gets. Howard has not played a lot of games this year. I don't know if they're going to continue on with their season. They're not. So that's the deal. They opted out. They're not playing this year. So all of their games is canceled right now. So that's the end of that. So Howard is not playing this year right now. And then the last team who's in dead last right now is Delaware State. And so unfortunately, it's been a rough season for them. It's been a lot of postponements, a lot of cancellations because of Howard. They were supposed to play Howard today, not today, excuse me, tomorrow and Sunday, but they're not. They're canceled right now. So their next game is going to be on the 20th against Morgan State. And so, look, they have to win these games against Morgan State and Coppin State to move up in the division. So they have to figure it out. So let's look at the Southern Division. It's a little bit more competitive for sure. And so right now, North Carolina A&T College is number one in the Southern Division. They are undefeated in the MEAC, and they are currently 7-9 as their overall record. But like I said, if you're winning your conference games, that matters the most. So their next games is against South Carolina State on the 14th and the 15th. And so this is a good opportunity for them to go 6-0 in the division. So they control their own destiny in that division. If they continue to win games, then look, they have a chance to make it to the March Madness tournament. And so let's look at the second team. Is Florida A&M University. Right now they have a 3-2 record. You know, they got a little time to make up to get to number one, but they have to play North Carolina A&T on the 20th and 21st. So this is their chance. If they sweep them in this little mini series, they could move up to first and they end up playing North Carolina Central in their own home court. And so North Carolina Central right now is at 2-2. So they have a good chance to take the second spot. And then South Carolina State, I don't know what to tell you guys, but South Carolina State is right now has not won a game at all. They're currently 0-15 for the year. And you know, unfortunately, you have those days where, I mean, you know, South Carolina is known basically for football. They're really not a basketball school, and you can kind of tell right now with the record. They're 0-5 in the conference, 0-15 for the whole year, has not won a game. It's been tough. It's been tough. So let's look at some of the things. Bethune-Cookman, you know, who's in their last year of the MEAC conference, they opted out early this year, and Maryland Eastern Shore, another team that opted out as well. So both of those teams are out. You know, it could have been a little bit different if those two teams would have played, but they're not. They're not, unfortunately. So that they're out of the question. So look, Morgan State and North Carolina State, A&T, they're controlling their own destiny. And look, between those two teams, if they make it to find out who's going to the March Madness tournament, then look, that's going to be a fun matchup to really see who's going to be the top dog of the MEAC conference. So we're going to continue to monitor that for the rest of the month, and we're going to look at which teams are going to be at the end, and going to be at the end of the race here for the MEAC, and continue on to the March Madness tournament out of this conference. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. And so let's continue on to the SWAC conference, okay? So this is a little bit more competitive. So the SWAC conference, they're not having a two division type of situation. So whoever is first is going to represent. Well, I shouldn't let me say that, because if they have a tournament, if they do, I'm not sure wholeheartedly if they're having a tournament or not. But if they do, then look, we have to figure out which team is going to represent the SWAC conference in basketball. But let's go ahead and look towards the standings here in the SWAC. So number one right now, currently with a 6-0 division record, they are undefeated in the conference, 7-0, 7-4 overall conference for this 7-4 record for the season right now. It's the Prairie View A&M University Panthers. Right now, they're undefeated. They're doing a great job. They are beating teams that they need to beat in the conference. Their last game, they were able to beat both of the Alabama schools, but they haven't played in a while. They have not played in a while. Let's be wholeheartedly here. So their last game was the 1st of February, and they was able to beat Alabama State 87-63. Okay, but their next 3 games were canceled. So that was Texas Southern, Jackson State, and Grambling State. So they're not going to play. They're not going to play for a while. I think their next game is going to be the 20th against Mississippi Valley State and University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. So this is the time for them to really, separate themselves from the rest of the pack. But that's going to be very hard right now, because currently in second place right now is Jackson State University. They're also undefeated in the conference, 6-5 record overall. And Jackson State, they're playing very well. It's been a lot of games that they have postponed earlier in the season that could have shifted some things, but look, they have won their last 5 games in a row, and their last game was the 8th against Southern University, and they was able to go out to Baton Rouge and beat the Southern University. And unfortunately, since their game was postponed against Prairie View, which was supposed to happen tomorrow, those were the 2 top teams. So that game could have held some weight in the SWAC division, but unfortunately, they're not going to play that game. But their next game will be against Texas Southern on the 15th in Jackson, so they don't even have to leave. They can play against they're going to play against Texas Southern and Grambling State. So we're going to have to see how that game works out. We're going to have to see how that works out. So coming in at number 3 is Grambling State with a 7-3 record in the conference, 9-8 overall record. And so Grambling State, they're right in it. Unfortunately, they did lose some games, but they have won the most games in the SWAC. But postponements, they hold weight. They hold weight. So their last game that they played was against Alcorn State, and they was on the 8th. They was able to win 67-62. And so, like I said, they're postponed against Prairie View, but their next game will be on the 20th against Jackson State. So they have to win that game if they want to move up ahead of Jackson State and above against Prairie View. So that's important. That's an important game. And so if they win out the next couple of games against Arkansas Pine Bluff, against Mississippi Valley, against Alabama A&M, and Alabama State, they could make noise in the division. And so coming in at number 4 is Alabama A&M with the 4-2 record, 6-2 record overall. So they have been playing pretty decent basketball. So their next game is on the 13th, which is tomorrow, against Alabama State. So this is a big rivalry game against both schools. So they're going to Montgomery to the Alabama State to play them. And then on the 20th, they're going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and then to Alcorn State. So they have to do a lot of traveling for the next couple of games. So they're going to have to figure this one out. It's a lot of home games, and they come back for another 2 games, then they're back on the road. So they have a lot of road games coming up. They have 5 road games ahead of them. So that's very tough to ask any school to go and beat somebody on their own home floor. It's very tough. Very tough to do, but look, they have to do it. We're going to have to see if they can get it done. And then coming in at the middle of the pack is Texas Southern. And Texas Southern is a very strong basketball school. So it's pretty interesting to see them at this area. So their schedule has been very, very awkward, A lot of postponements, a lot of, trying to figure out their games. But right now they're supposed to play Grambling tomorrow. So they're still trying to figure that out. Then they have to play Jackson State. And then University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Mississippi Valley State twice. And then Alabama State, Alabama A&M, Alcorn State, and then they end their season with Southern. And so they have a lot of home games, so they can make some noise in the division, but it's going to be hard because I don't think Prairie View, and I don't think Jackson State is going anywhere anytime soon. So it's going to be hard for them to really make ground, but look, they have a chance. And then coming in at 6 is Southern. Southern A&M University. Currently is 4-4 in division and 4-8 overall record. But they have a lot of postponements as well against, Prairie View and Texas Southern. So that kind of hurt them. But they're able to play tomorrow against Arkansas Pine Bluff. Very early game, I should add. And then Mississippi Valley State, they're playing them at Mississippi Valley State. Then they have a lot of home games. They have a lot of home games against Alabama State and Alabama A&M, and then 2 games against Alcorn State. Both on the same day, which is very weird. I don't know if that's a glitch in the schedule or whatnot, but that's pretty interesting. And then they have to play Prairie View and Texas Southern, both away games. And that's saying a lot, especially trying to go to Prairie View to beat them. That's going to be a little tough. It's going to be a little tough. So there's that. And then we have Alcorn State, who's right now 3-4 in the division. They lost 3 in a row, so it's kind of hard for them to, make ground in the division. And they have some tough games the back end of the season they have to play Southern twice. Then they have to play Texas Southern and then Prairie View, and then the SWAC tournament. So you never know what's going to happen with Alcorn. And then Alabama State's come third to last. They have a tough season. They're having a tough season right now. And then University of Arkansas Pine Bluff with a 2-8 record in the conference. Alabama State has a 3-8 record in the conference. So it's tough for them. Arkansas Pine Bluff has lost 8 games in a row. That's really hard to come back from losing 8 games in a row. But somehow they have to figure it out. They're 3-16 in overall record. University of Alabama Pine Bluff. So they have a lot of things to figure out. And in last is Mississippi Valley State. Unfortunately, it hasn't been really good for athletics, but somebody has to be last, which is very tough. But there's an opportunity for a lot of these teams who are in the bottom of the division. You never know what can happen. They can get high in the tournament time. They can get high and make it to the March Madness tournament. They could make it to the March Madness tournament, and they can make it even with a bad record. You never know. That's the greatness of these college basketball tournaments. You can get a second chance if you did bad in the season. You can get a second chance in the tournament. Now, you have to win these tournaments because, especially for HBCU conferences, it's usually only one team to represent these teams. So whoever wins the tournament usually makes it to March Madness, and the rest of the teams, like their season is over with. So they have to do a good job in the tournament to really do anything. So you never know. The SWAC tournament and the MEAC tournament could cause some crazy changes in these conferences. So yeah, that basically rounds out the MEAC the SWAC side of the things. And look, I think we're all excited for college sports, even though it's a small sample size, and it's not a lot of college sports being played. It's still fun to see these guys, to see these men and women play. These games. And so yeah, let's look at the women's side too. Let me not exclude them. So let's go ahead and look into the women's side of things. Because they are playing. The women are playing, so let's go ahead and look at those standings while we have a little bit of time. So right now, currently for the women, Alabama State is in first place with a 9-1 record. Won 5 games in a row. They only played their games in the conference, so they're 9-1 overall in their season. And so they beat Mississippi Valley. They beat them pretty handedly. Their last game on the 8th. So they're going to play Alabama A&M. 2 games, the 13th and the 15th. And then Alcorn State, Southern, Texas Southern, Prairie View, Grambling, and Jackson State to round out the rest of their schedule. So right now, Alabama is playing very well. And coming in second, tied with Alabama State, is Jackson State. So both the men and the women are playing outstanding basketball. So they currently won 8 in a row. So Jackson State is playing very good basketball right now. They were able to beat Southern on their last game on the 8th. And now, unfortunately, they have some cancellations against Prairie View. So they're not going to play the 13th. But the 15th, they're going to play Texas Southern, and then Grambling State, and then so far and so forth. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to, round it out. So coming in at number 3 is Alabama A&M with a 5-1 record, playing very well. Currently on a 5-game winning streak. Southern is coming in at number 4 with a 6-3 record. Grambling State is currently 5th. Alcorn State is right behind them. Both have 5-4 records. Then it's the bottom division, kind of having tougher years. It's Texas Southern, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Prairie View, and Mississippi Valley State is dead last for the women's side as well as the men's side. So it's kind of tough for Texas Southern, not Texas Southern, Mississippi Valley State, for athletics in general, because hopefully their football team can figure it out in the spring season. So let's look at the women's side for the MEAC. And so right now in the Northern Division, Morgan State is holding the top spot. So both men and women are doing a great job. Howard is their women's side is currently still playing basketball. So the women is representing Howard for that university, and they're playing well. A very decent 5-2 record, right behind Morgan State. And then coming out the bottom is Delaware State with a 2-5 record, and Coppin State with the 2-6 record. And then for Southern, it's the Southern side of the MEAC. North Carolina A&T is having a great season with a 4-0 record, 7-0 record overall. And then North Carolina Central with the 1-1 record. Haven't played too many games. I'm not sure if they're canceling the whole season, but the majority of their games has been canceled. So their next game is not until the February 27th. So basically the end of the month. And then Norfolk State has a 1-3 record. So they haven't played too many games as well. And South Carolina State is last with 0-2 record in the conference. They haven't played too many games either. And then Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, Maryland Eastern Shore has all opted out of the basketball season. So the women are getting at it as well, and they are playing great basketball as well. So it's very fun to see all of these teams represented from both male and female to play that are playing right now. They're doing what they have to do, and they're going through the basketball season, and hopefully that they can remain safe throughout the whole season, and they can make it through the whole season. So it's a big hope for HBCU in general. And then when football starts, it's going to be a fun time. So basically, that's going to be the end of the show. I appreciate everybody who came out as always to the show. And we will be back here next Friday from noon to 1 Pacific Standard Time. Like every week, where for this whole month, we're going to talk about HBCU sports. So I hope you guys will come back and enjoy more HBCU talk together. So on Facebook and YouTube, I appreciate all the likes, all the shares, just you guys being there. Just I appreciate everybody. And on Twitch, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I might be back in an hour. I'm not 100% sure. We'll see in an hour. And we'll if we do, we'll just come back and play games and have fun and enjoy each other's company. But until next time, I will be back next week, same time, same place here from noon to 1 Pacific Standard Time. So until next time, peace.